How did 2024 stack up in terms of, I guess you could classify maybe as poaching or wildlife illegally killed in the state of Utah?
It's unfortunately always a problem. It's something that happens every year, quite often all year long. This year, we once again broke the 1,000 illegally killed animal mark, which we've done consistently over the past 5 years. And that's kind of the circumstances we're in. That this year is relatively close to the previous years.
Before we get a little bit deeper into those numbers and some of the other correlating things, how do you make a big impact in that number? How is it more education? Is it more public messaging? Is it people just paying attention and knowing what to do, or a combination of all of the above?
It's probably a combination. And I think if I were to recommend what people would do is people need to, prior to going out and to participating in any of these activities that are regulated, is to download the guidebook, put it on your phone, and read through it and just make sure that you're following the rules. There's a lot of rules. We understand that. Generally speaking, 95% of the people are not going out there to take something illegally. They just make a mistake that they weren't aware of. There are those people that go out and do it intentionally, and those are the people that we're actively trying to stop from doing that. But generally speaking, most people just make a mistake.
Given the numbers, how successful is the public outreach and on all those things right now to make that impact?
Well, overall, I would say that if you want to call it a compliance number, the public 95% of the time does it correctly. I mean, we talked to over 32,000 people last year, and only a handful of them were even, had a citation or a warning or anything like that. Granted, there's quite a few violations documented, different things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that because we have listed in our press release that there's 6,400 violations found. That doesn't mean everybody got a ticket. That just means we were called and found something that happened illegally. Now, or how we interpreted it as being illegal. So, but generally speaking, the public does a really good job. The way we increase that is like we talked about before, is downloading our app, downloading those guidebooks, and making sure that you're up to speed on the rules.
Suspensions, how much do you need to do to get your license suspended? 46 out of the greater number is a smaller sample size, and it looks to be almost consistent with last year and then down from previous years in 2022 and 2021. But what are individuals doing to get their license suspended?
So generally speaking, these are the people that do it more on purpose. And there's some intent to what they're doing, going out and taking something illegally. And because of that, that's where we take their licenses, their hunting privileges away for a period, hunting or fishing privileges away. And it can go up from, a year to 2 years up to 10 to 15 years, depending on the circumstance. So that's kind of what we hold in our back pocket for those who are really doing bad things.
How does Utah stack up to other neighboring states? I think we talked about this last year, that every state has their own problems with certain things. Fish is always going to be a big number. But in general, where are we compared to your Nevadas, your Colorados, your Idahos, your Wyomings?
Not every agency is created equal, I guess you'd say. If you go back east, the agencies, the number of officers back east are huge compared to us. So in the West, where we have more space, we have fewer officers to cover that space, which, is backwards. But I do think the West, there's a lot of opportunity out there and a lot of space for people to maybe make a bad decision or something like that. But so if we're comparing, apples to apples, the West, we're all pretty close. But if you move back east, it is a different story because of the population of people and space. So
How valuable are the canines and their handlers to your investigations into these?
so it's a relatively new program. We've had the canines for, 3, 4 years, and they've really made a lot of help, a lot of progress in some of our investigations. They can find uh, evidence that we weren't able to find. They can find evidence quicker than we could find it, and they have not only in that regards, but they've helped the public out as far as finding lost hikers, different things like that. It's truly been a great asset to the Division of Law Enforcement, now previously the Division of Wildlife, to have those canines on the table and be able to use that tool when needed.
How difficult can some of these poaching related or illegally killed animal cases be in terms of an investigation?
Some of them take years to complete. And they're quite complicated. They span over different locations throughout the state. So you have different court jurisdictions that we have to work through, different things like that. And again, it's once you start into an investigation, it can expand and go, many years. Or sometimes it's just really simple. And like we talked about, somebody made a simple mistake and you can deal with it and move on. So.
So finally, what's the big message for people here that maybe see some of this or a clip of this or our conversation? They say, man, I always thought I was doing something right, but laws keep changing or things keep adjusting and I just can't keep up. But what is the big message to people? You mentioned the guidebook. Maybe these people go out once or twice a year. Maybe they go out all the time when they have permit and whatnot. But what is the overall thing you'd like the public to do so this number can go down in years in the future here?
I do think if the public can increase their knowledge and understanding of the rules, obviously, that will be a great benefit. If you have questions, there's 5 regional offices around the state that are each, there's officers that are located in and around those areas. If you see an officer, ask your questions. That's truly what the officers are out there to do. We want to educate. We want to make sure people enjoy their activities out in on the landscape and do things correctly. But we do want to be of help too. We want people to enjoy the same types of things that we enjoy doing and do it the proper way. So I would, if you find an officer, talk to them, ask them the questions, but then also take upon your responsibility to download that guidebook and read the rules and make sure you're following them.
Anything else we're missing?
One thing that I do want, if the public is out there and they are seeing things that they think is illegal or they know for sure is illegal, that we need their help and we ask them to contact us. There's a Help Stop Poaching hotline that they can call. They can download the UT DWR app and text us with photographs and GPS locations, different things like that. It's truly proven to be a really great asset to have the public's help in these circumstances because there's not a lot of us and we can't be everywhere. So we do need as much of the public's help as we can get.
On that subject, how valuable are, these where people are taking pictures of something that a suspicious vehicle, a person, and then they locate a carcass or something along those lines. How valuable are those visual tips to what you do?
It's funny because 10 years ago, the number of people that would call the hotline compared to those who maybe text us or things like that was very different. It was very high for people to call. It is very quickly changed to where we get a lot more people that are texting information in because of the access to the phone and differently. And it's just how people communicate now. So and that's why we've developed this app. The app works really well. You can text anonymously. You can be in direct contact with an officer quicker and share, like we talked about, photographs, GPS locations, and it's really proven to be an effective way to communicate for the public to communicate with the officers.